good to go.
All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Power Zone, where we discuss all things real estate related. Today, we are blessed to have Susan Bentley of Bentley Home Inspection Services. She's a big believer in educating and to share her wealth of knowledge. So welcome, Susan. We really do appreciate it. Can you give us a little bit about what your background is and how you came to be willing to share your knowledge here?
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you so very much for having me. So Susan Bentley with Bentley Home Inspection. So my sweet husband, Donnie, many know him as also known as Santa. So he started this company in 1997. He did not have the beard then. He was actually a firefighter. He was a career firefighter. A lot of people do not know that.
Wow.
And built the company while he was being a fireman. So he spent 8 years in Morristown Fire and then 25 years at Oak Ridge National Lab. So he glows in the dark and everything. That made him a great inspector in crawl spaces, but he started the business.
That's a great Santa too.
It is a great Santa. So we actually have been doing some Christmas in July even. So but he retired from that career about 4 years ago and decided he wanted to grow a little beard, and it's went from there. So now we have Inspector Santa. But he started the company in 97. So the joke is I'm not the first wife, but I am the last. And so I came into his world about 8 years ago. And my background was a little bit different. I had a background in marketing. And I do tease him that he thought it would be cheaper to marry me than hire me. And he probably should have just hired me. But he's not complaining. So I guess I'm good. But I had a marketing background. And then I also did programs. And so with injury prevention for pediatrics. So at a children's hospital. So my background was a little bit diverse. I'd never planned on being involved in a home inspection company. Actually met Donnie. He knew he was fireman with my brother, and I needed a home inspection. I knew he did that home inspection thing. Had no idea he actually owned a company and the whole 9 yards. So we got to talking, and then one thing led to another, and figured out that he is my person and the love of my life. So he pulled me into, I call it the vortex. So if you're in the real estate industry, you totally understand that verbiage, because all things in that industry is a vortex. And so, but it's an industry that I just love. And I know, like you, Dawn, you share that love for the industry and for the clients that we have the ability to serve. So I started doing marketing. And then 4 years ago, when Donnie started talking about how he wanted retirement to look like, which happened last year for him, for most home inspection companies, they get large enough and then they sell. And that was kind of conversations. And I wasn't at that season of life yet that I wanted to just be at home or whatever. I still love being able to do and work and bring value. So he asked me if I wanted to run the company. And I think the most powerful question I've ever asked my husband is, will you let me? And he has. So 4 years ago, I stepped in, and I am truly a female CEO of a home inspection company, which is a rarity in the industry. And I love it. We have 16 home inspectors, and they are amazing. We cover Cookeville to Chattanooga, all the way up into Virginia. So we have a really large footprint. But we love being able to educate. And the market's had so many shifts in the last several years. So, we had a really major shift with COVID and everything that happened within the market there. And then afterward, everybody kind of thought, well, maybe it would settle out, and it really hasn't. In Tennessee, I actually got to talk to a group of folks that were their clients for a company that uses us a lot, and they did a client appreciation. And we were talking about, because most of them are from other states that have moved here. And, I told them, I said, so our secret's out about how amazing. And one of them said, they're from California. And she said, yeah, our family wanted to come visit, and was like, do you have running water? Is there a bathroom in the house? And I'm like, I think the whole Beverly Hillbillies really protected us for a long time, because nobody realized that, we wear shoes. We're very articulate. It is the most beautiful place on earth. And now that secret is out. And so we have become the hot spot for people to come to. And that's a blessing, because once again, we're a great melting pot. Donnie, one of his favorite phrases is, please remember that you're a refugee, not a missionary. So, if you can keep that in mind in Tennessee, you'll be great.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm gonna have to use that multiple times here.
Yeah. So, the industry, our markets are down right now for the most part, but it's inventory. And I know because we work with a lot of builders. We're very involved with the Women's Council of Realtors. And here in Knoxville, they had an amazing panel just this past month with builders. And they're really trying hard to get caught up on what that inventory needs to be. We're just woefully behind on inventory. So I think as those things start happening, that's part of it. And I think as people in the industry, whether it's a home inspector or a lender or title or the real estate agent themselves, we need to really be on top of what's going on in all aspects. So like for the builders, there's some things they're trying to get legislatively that will help make building a little easier, but still keep the beauty intact. We don't want to cover all of the area. We don't want to look like a San Francisco or a Nashville. But we do want to be able to provide that housing. So, because that's huge for our economy as a whole. So we're really involved in a lot of those things. And I think most people may not know that, but it's not just about home inspections for us. It's about the health of the industry. Because, if the industry is successful, we'll be successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that you were mentioning builders there. What are they? You said about the legislation that they're trying on there. What are they facing? What are they saying their challenges are?
So a lot of the challenges is infrastructure. And when you start talking about infrastructure, there's so many aspects to that. So just this year, Donnie and I and Regions Bank, Jeanette Bergen, we all kind of popped in and we did we sponsored a bus and with CAR, now East Tennessee Realtors, and went down to Nashville because there was a tax that we were fighting. And the thing about that tax, when they added it into the home price, it wasn't really going to help anything as far as the infrastructure. That could be actually went into the total fund for the state. And so when you start thinking about bringing in new homes, whether it's a subdivision, everybody automatically thinks subdivision, but it's not just subdivisions. If you're going to bring in anywhere, you've got to have that infrastructure. And that's where they're really struggling on some things. And then there's some areas that it may be that water is an issue, getting enough water ran in the pipe and the appropriate things. So, if you have a road that has had a farm at the end and now they've just said, hey, we're happy for you to extend and be there and have, general homes, not necessarily subdivision, there's a water flow issue. So, there's lots of things that they're trying to do to figure that out. So, and one aspect, like with the water, is they've talked about, well, if that home has a sprinkler system, then you won't have to get the same flow on a hydrant. And so, once again, having a husband that's a fireman, we understand that a little bit better than a lot. And there's a lot of ways for us to be able to help and make sure that that's there and still keep a pulse on making sure we keep the area really beautiful and have that beautiful pastures that everybody loves and the old barns and the all the things that make East Tennessee gorgeous. So it's being able to know what are their concerns. And everybody looks at things with different glasses. We definitely look at it from a home inspection perspective. Like Dawn, you're going to look at it from a lender perspective because that's where your expertise is at. And if we're all gathered together and we're looking at it that in those multiple ways, we can find a much more successful way to get to what our goal is, which once again is having more people in happy homes.
Absolutely. And that's one thing we do as a lender, and not all lenders do this, but there's several who do. Of course, there's the regular construction loans and then change that over to permanent loan, but there's also a one-time close loan, which is, hey, it's just one closing for the client. And it also helps a builder who doesn't want to finance their build upfront, build it and don't know if they're going to have a buyer for it on there. So that's available. And of course, with the VA, hey, that's a zero down that can, that can help a lot. So can you go ahead and start letting us know just about the home inspections? And also, can you address as well, we went through that period, and actually I think it's still out there a little bit, where people are willing to say
No
waive
home
the home
inspection. Let's waive
inspection.
it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I've seen some stories where that is coming back to bite people on
It,
there. So and I'm
exactly.
surprised I'm not seeing more stories on that.
So, well, our first big thing is you need to find an amazing lender like Dawn and get pre-approved. And then let's talk about home inspections. So there's a process, and that's one thing, we get every once in a while somebody that calls and goes, well, I'm not using an agent. And so our team's kind of trained into, well, let's talk about that. Because that's probably not let's talk, because there's a very big misconception of I can do it on my own and make more money. No, you can't, not really. So
Absolutely
it could
not.
actually cost you, and so in a multitude of ways. So we're kind of the process of, they've already found their agent, they have gotten pre-approved, and now they have found this amazing house that they're falling in love with. And so now we come in, and kind of the verbiage is we get to talk about the baby. And so the baby could be just the cutest thing ever and it's all golden, or it could be kind of an ugly baby, but we can talk about it, or it could be missing a toe and we really need to talk about it. So it's the whole home inspection process is during the most stressful time, because at this point you've fallen in love with the house, and now I have to be able to say this is what it looks like. And a home inspection is a negotiation tool to a point, but in reality it's really how to um, cast out what your financial future is for this home. So when you think about that, it's huge. So we do a lot of pre-listings. So in other words, the seller is having it inspected, and that puts the negotiation into the seller's hands. Most people don't really realize that, because if there is something, I mean, the average person's not been in their crawl space or their attic in a while. Um, and so we go in those places and find if there's concerns. If you are about to sell your home, if there is a concern that's going to be significant, you really do want to know up front, because you may be able to find somebody to fix it, and it have value when you go to sell, rather than I've got my house, I don't really know what condition it's in. Now we're going to have a buyer, and they're going to get an inspection, and they're going to start negotiating, and they're going to really negotiate strong on things like that. So, it kind of puts some negotiating back into the seller's hands. So we do a lot of those, but the most of ours are for the buyers. And so we go in and look at functionality and safety. We don't do code. Several think we do code, but we cover such a large area, and code is so specific. That's why when you're building a house, you get somebody that comes and signs off on electric, somebody that signs off on what, it's because it's so specific, and it's specific to that area. So we do not do code, but with the inspection, we're going to be able to tell you what's going on with your roof, how the attic looks, what your plumbing looks like, what the crawl space and the structure looks like, and be able to say, hey, here's some things that you might want to look at or kind of prepare for. And that process is very helpful. So when they were waiving inspections, it's kind of like getting married without dating. I'm here and I'm committed, but the thing is, there's no, you could sell, but you're in it for a long haul. I mean, nobody for the most part is financing for 5 years. It's, it's 20, 25, 30, years that you've now married up to a home that you have no idea what's going on. And then you start having really significant issues, something that's, could possibly really financially devastate you. The house isn't easy to sell then, because most likely that person is going to get an inspection. And now you're in a really bad position. And so we really, really want to make sure folks, even if it's I'm buying it as is, but I still want an inspection to know. Because if there's something significant, then you could still pull out if you need to. If it's a structural issue that's going to cost you tons, or, the plumbing's leaking everywhere, or whatever that case may be. But if not, it's a way to say, okay, in 2 years, I know I'm probably going to have to replace the HVAC. We can figure that out. You know, so there's a lot of those kind of things. So because there's nothing wrong whatsoever. If I have, we mark it as acceptable, marginal, or defective. If I have pages of defective, I mean, it's just red everywhere. You know, that home right now is running, you know, on that 150, 225 that you can find some of those that has a lot of things just kind of going on with it. There's nothing wrong with buying that house. You know, Donnie is as handy as a shirt pocket, so he can fix just about anything. So that kind of person, that's not a problem at all.
Also, one thing on that is as well is that there is the renovation loan. You know, there's a VA renovation loan. There's a 203K loan. There's a different loans that it doesn't have to be, you know, perfect for someone to move in. They can get that taken care of after the sale.
And that's what I think most people don't. That's part of the beauty of when you start talking about looking for a house, you know, is being able to have a great team. You really want a team. I mean, that buying a house requires you to have a team. So you're going to have your agent who's amazing, and you want somebody that can answer your questions, that's going to work with you, that's going to really hold your hand through the whole process. And then, you know, once again, that's where that lender, being a really strong lender, has a great time being able to say, you know what, you're in this price range, but we also have this. So this can get you into this home and it be, you know, a really good fit for them and their family. And when you know, to be quite honest, when we hear that the lender is, because we do a lot, because we do the WDI, which is a termite letter, as well. So sometimes we deal with the lenders, and it's always kind of challenging when it's somebody that you can't call and go, hey, I have a question, or it's somebody that you think you just don't have a clue. The other day we had one that was for sure we needed wind mitigation. So for those that don't know, in Florida, you are required to have a wind mitigation. Guess what they have that we do not? Hurricanes. So,
Yeah.
you know, if Tennessee has a hurricane, we got some major issues going on. And trying to get them to understand, can we really look at this? This is not really what we're talking about. So, and it was like, no, it's a requirement. I don't think, probably not here. And so then they came back finally later and said they were in error. But we spent 3 days going back and forth, them convinced that we had to have a 4-point wind mitigation. And, you know, my local lenders know all that.
Yeah, it's definitely one thing that you were mentioning earlier too is just regarding sellers getting that pre-inspection, and that's one thing too, is that, and I think this is a very important part for a lot of realtors to understand. We as homeowners, we live in the property. We get used to, okay, what's not okay, but also generally we're not crawling into the crawl spaces, and we don't know what issues there are. We don't know if there's certain lakes. Especially here in the South, you know, we've got the humidity on there that can cause a lot of issues, and then also, you know, just foundation problems. So as a real estate agent, it could really help you for your sellers to try to convince your sellers to get that pre-inspection, because on that disclosure that they're signing, hey, there might be certain issues, but they're not aware of it on there. So it can give them a realistic expectation of what might come back in negotiations for a buyer.
And that's the thing, you know, even if because a lot of folks go, oh, I don't want to know because I have to disclose. Well, you may find out anyway. So let's think about that. And you know, Tennessee is the state that has the most. We're the most litigious state. And when you think about that, that's a little bit on the scary side. So when you think about, like, right now, there are multiple lawsuits against agents.
All right. Well, you're breaking up there.
Oh, am I there now?
Yeah, we're back. We were frozen for a minute. So
Sorry about that. So there are multiple lawsuits in Tennessee against agents that the client waived the home inspection. And so now there's significant issues. And so they've come back and they're suing the agent for failure of fiduciary responsibility and suing the seller and saying the seller lived in the house, should have known all these issues. So it would be really hard as a seller to prove what you do and do not know. And for the agents, when we're talking to agents, Donnie taught a class yesterday. We really tell them, if your client is adamant on waiving a home inspection, please have a conversation with your broker about having an additional set of paperwork for that. We're being told, do not really rely on the checkbox in the contract that says I waive. That they're saying, what we're hearing is that is not enough to uphold your fiduciary responsibility. So agents carry that fiduciary responsibility, and that's huge. So, we really tell you, if we don't want you to waive, but if your client is adamant to waive, please make sure you're doing the additional paperwork, because the last thing I want is to see somebody that we really like be caught up in all of that. So
one thing that, as you were mentioning that, one thing I know the VA requires a lot of letters from the veteran, based on certain things, where it's in the veteran's own handwriting, basically on there, saying, and it comes from the veteran saying, I acknowledge this on there, saying I waive this. So it puts it into the veteran's hands, not that they're just signing, but that they're writing out a letter of explanation on that. So I wonder if that's something like that might be suitable on the real estate side for something like that. Of course, checking with the brokers, checking with the state laws, whatever state you're in, you need to check on that and see what is acceptable to prevent you from being sued.
There are a lot of brokerages that have an additional page, additional waiving of inspection, and it's a full page, and there's multiple. It's not just the box in the contract. So that's part of the conversations that you really do want to have. And with inspections, like for us, we've been doing this for 26, almost 27 years. We bring some other added values. So like we have a complimentary warranty. That's a 90-day warranty that comes with our inspection. It's not like a home warranty. I really encourage people to get a home warranty. There are a lot of great home warranty companies out there that will assist in a lot of things. So, but because it just never seems to fail in 30, 60 days, something breaks. It just kind of is. So, but because I guess with your home, you're used to loving on certain things, whether the nuances of the dishwasher or the fridge or the stove. And so, and those may not always get passed along. So, but we have those warranties in place. So there are certain things that we'll be able to help with. And then, you're talking about, VA. So I know you and I both are very veteran friendly. We have multiple veteran inspectors. We have one of our lady that leads our office, Anita, who's amazing. She's a vet. For us, our WDI letters are free for our veterans with the home inspection. We just compliment that because we love being able to serve them. They've served us in such a large way. So
well, that's awesome.
So there's just a lot of things when you're looking at inspections that you can kind of just talking things. We're always happy to have lunch or have coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I'm always happy to have a latte or something with somebody. But my office team laughs when they see on my calendar Susan having coffee with, and they're like, "You don't drink coffee." I'm like, "Well, it's easy to say coffee." But and talk and answer any questions, especially new agents. Even if you don't use us for inspections, I really hope you do. But please let me help you educate on the very best I can on what all is involved and where you can find some resources.
But basically going back to the home inspections in general, they're more informative to help with negotiations or what's acceptable, what's not. Home inspectors are going to generally try to find everything on there, but home inspections are different from appraisals. Lenders don't care anything about the home inspection. on there. We just don't. It's what the appraiser says on there and the minimum property requirements that each loan program has on there. That is what that's what we as lenders require. The home inspection is more to be informative to the home buyer to know what they're getting. It's like when you purchase a car, if you're purchasing especially a used car, and listen, every car is going to have its own, whether it's new or used, it's going to have problems. You want to get a car inspection on there so you know what you're getting into, instead of you buy a $10,000 car and immediately have to buy, put $5,000 into it for some repair. Yes, that happened to me, but it's been a great car. That's the only thing that I had to do. And it was a minor issue, but they had to tear the engine apart to get to it. So, but it's the same thing for homes. Every home has its own nuances on there, and the home inspection, a good home inspection company like Bentley is going to be great in giving the home buyer the information that they need.
Yeah, and there may be certain concerns they have, and different houses and different price ranges all have different things. Donnie's class yesterday was on the aging home, and we were talking, and one thing he was saying is, you need to kind of prep your clients for what to expect. If in a new build, with new construction, we have great builders in the area, but they also use subs, and they're a sub may work on 4 different houses during the day, and we're all human, and so there's only been one perfect person, and that wasn't a female, so it just is, you need to think about error can happen. So with a new construction, when we do a lot of those inspections and find small things, sometimes we find large things, and you just need to know so the client doesn't expect that to look super clean. They typically will find something small, every once in a while something large. Don't let it make you panic, because the beauty of a new construction inspection is that builder will immediately rectify that. There's not a negotiation to that. You say this is what's going on, and they just make it right. So that's the easiest thing possible. And then if you think about, like, on the other end of the spectrum, an aging home, they need to know there's going to be some cracks, and they need to know there's going to be some settlement, and there's going to be some things that you just know happen with an older home. And having that knowledge as an agent is huge, but having a relationship with your inspection that, you can say, hey, my clients are looking at this kind of age house. What can we expect? And then we can help you walk your client through that. So that way, when they get their inspection report, it's nothing alarming, when it's things that we look at and think that's just normal for this house at this age.
What one of the final notes here, what would be some of the most common things as far as the major things that you see?
Our big things that we're looking for is roofs need to be replaced. We had one the other day. The front of the roof looked amazing, and then on the back of the house, not so much. And so, roofs, because that's a huge ticket item. HVAC system, you really want to know kind of if that's, now we don't go in depth like an HVAC company. So we just turn on thermostat, look at things kind of, it's an overall. Once again, we can't be invasive. Everything's visual. And so, but we can kind of tell you if it's, if everything's running. We do infrared with our report. We don't charge extra for that. So you can see at the registers if it's cooling, if it's heating. And so those are big ticket items that you want to know. You want to make sure your structure is really sound, your foundation, and the crawl space. We want to make sure there's nothing wonky going on the crawl space. Make sure there's no, anything. If you're getting the WDI or termite letter, we're also going to be able to tell you about that. So, those are the big ticket items. But, find a dishwasher that doesn't work properly, or, to find an outlet that doesn't work properly, or a GFCI, those are typicals. A toilet that's loose, that's very typical. Our guys do is we call it the toilet dance. So it's very common to find a loose toilet. So those are simple, easy things that you just don't need to get hung up on at all. It's those big ticket items that you want to make sure you're making sure are good.
Wonderful, wonderful. Susan, I appreciate you spending your time with us today. If you are on Facebook, you can find them at Bentley Home Inspection. Also BentleyHomeInspections.com on there. Be sure to reach out to her for any questions that you have regarding home inspections, especially if you're in the East Tennessee area, but she will give you whatever information that she can assist with on there. So we really do appreciate it. We want to make sure that you subscribe to the Real Estate Power Zone, like, comment on here. This is how we get the information out. Check out our other videos as well. So again, thank you so much.